I thought so with Václav and Ryan, we were discussing the meeting beforehand, and I'm just going to quickly show sort of the evolution of a number of components of OpenEEW from last year, and then I think Ryan can speak to the work on the app, and Václav to the work on the seismology and the London School of Economics as well, and what they're doing. If that makes sense, guys. Let me just. Okay, Václav, Ryan, feel free to interrupt me if I'm misrepresenting anything here. But what I wanted to do was just show where we were a few months ago and where we are today using these two block diagrams. So in the first one, this is incredibly simplified, but in the first one, what we have, this hasn't changed, this is still there, but what we have is this IoT setup with the OpenEEW sensors sending data through Watson IoT. And then there's a couple of services that we had built using Node-RED, a cloud and database, and a mobile app, which allowed the sensor to properly register with MQTT, and that the user's details are associated with that sensor. There was quite a lot of work that John did around this. Although it wasn't without difficulty when we started deploying it. But nonetheless, this is obviously a much more professional setup than one I'm going to show now. And also the dashboard, which is quite advanced as well. So those things were working. One thing that wasn't really working was the detection system. At least it wasn't, we weren't able to take the data from MQTT. There was some scripts that we had, that Václav had worked on, but there wasn't really a proper output, and it wasn't working end to end. So there was no output from this system. So just to get back to basics, we took we've created this. Now, I think I said this about 20 times already in various meetings, but the idea is if somebody wants to build this professionally, then all these existing cloud components are still there in GitHub. It's just that if people want to experiment, it's really painful to build this at the moment. But we have the expertise in the community for people to do that if they want to, but just for them to get involved, we found a really straightforward way to create this whole end-to-end system, which, by the way, is what we now have in Nepal, and is what we now have in Puerto Rico. And it's working quite well in both, I'd say really well. So yeah, it doesn't have a lot of security features, and it doesn't have proper user registration, which maybe we don't need user registration, given that these things are now being set up as standalone systems. They're no longer a global community of users. Hi, Johnny. I just joined. So yeah. So the main difference here is that the sensors. Hi, Johnny. Just for your benefit, we were just discussing last year's OpenEEW system with a very simplified one for people to get involved with quickly. So the idea now is that the sensors, and which can now be swapped out for different types of sensors as well, would communicate with a very, very basic and unsecured MQTT broker, which they can always upgrade later on as they wish, and that the detection system is built so that instantly just applying a Python script, you instantly grab the data, which is now being formatted using a miniseed convention, which is a seismology convention, a format. And then we are on the way to developing an alerting app, which will take that output and give you something. But already you can see the output from the detection system through the logs, which is what we're doing in Puerto Rico and Nepal. And I'd say that's working very well. And we still have to work out how the dashboard communicates with these elements. And in the future, there might be other alerting elements, which Kristen and Ryan are looking at as well. But yeah, so I just wanted to maybe just set that as a sort of, what we've done. So it might be a bit messy. I don't know if everybody was on board with the reduction in complexity, but it definitely means that you can now build OpenEEW in 10 minutes rather than having to, mess around with Kubernetes and set up all these different services, which ultimately you may need to do anyway. But I'll leave that there. I don't know if anybody has any comments.
No, not yet. Sorry, I was a bit late. I was playing on my PS5 and I lost track of the time. As usual, I have not been able to catch a lot of meetings just because I'm a chaotic person and I forget to take track of things.
No worries,
no
Johnny. You don't need to apologize when you come to meetings. We're happy to have you here, and you just contribute as you want to. No obligation.
Yeah, so I think this is good, right? So we talked about what's the simplest kind of foundation we could use. How do we make that deployable without a central global network? And how is it that people can get involved at various entry points pretty quickly? So I think that's great that it achieved those goals. And so I agree, even though we did have a different architecture approach, different centralized system that we had in mind before, that work is not wasted. So I don't think that we went down any terrible paths with that. It's good that we explored that. We understood the issues and we've got the experience for it. So I think it still makes a lot of sense. And it still gives us kind of this end-to-end system that anybody can do and that we can expand out to be customized to run on any of those more complex systems if needed.
Right. Because any cloud provider, Watson or any other one, you can swap out, several of these for services that are already managed for you. But this can be run on a laptop or on a Raspberry Pi straight away.
Yep.
I assume that I missed a lot of things in my absence.
All we were saying, Johnny, was that we were comparing this sort of very stripped down system that we have built now. But there's a sort of video where I demonstrated how to set it up in the chat in Slack, and then we just compared what was happening before December of last year, where we have a much more complex system using Watson, which does similar things, but a lot of the development had become stuck on sort of solving problems to do with authentication, and there was complexities there which I felt had been solved actually in a modular way. And so all I'm saying is that now somebody who joins our project can set up this end-to-end system very, very quickly using very, very low spec hardware. But if they want to actually deploy an early warning system professionally or in a serious way, yes, they can refer back to some of the work we've done before and swap out some of these things for more sophisticated components. I think that was the TDLR.
Very nice.
Excellent. So looking forward then on this one, Andy, is there now, so where does the code for this system live? Did we give it a version 2 code name? Did we call it something simplified?
Good question. So why is my keyboard not working? Keyboard. I'm having some serious issues today with.
Switch to Linux or?
Yeah. I actually
That's the universal when Windows stops working. Switch to Ubuntu, and then you get frustrated with that after 2 months.
This looks like Pop OS.
This is Pop OS. Yeah, exactly. I'm really happy with it, by the way. It's great.
I've got the.
Can somebody open the repository?
Yeah.
Sorry. Why is my keyboard not working?
Yeah, I used Pop OS for 6 months. Then I switched back to Windows for a while.
Yeah.
And then I switched to Mac OS.
Oh, I can do it. I can do it now. I don't know what happened.
You do?
It was when you were sharing, it took over some of your.
I think that's right. I think I was typing in the other window by mistake. So
yeah, that's actually funny. My friend who was used to stream on Twitch accidentally typed his password into the Twitch chat once instead of the login screen.
Whoops.
So watch out with that.
Whoops. Yeah. Okay. So here we go. So if I just refer you quickly to this new diagram, because a couple of changes that Václav and I worked on specifically from before. The first was the sensors. So the hardware is the same, but the firmware is different. And so let's just start there. So in the firmware, we've now reorganized this. I think John's upset at me because I didn't organize it the right way. But so what I did was I put the old stuff inside of Watson, which this is exactly as the firmware was 28 days ago. And so it does everything that we talked about in terms of setting it up as a connection to Watson. In the main, what we did was we branched it and we made some changes. And the main thing that we did was we removed any authentication stuff. So without going into huge amounts of detail in this town hall, all I wanted to say was that we we took out, there was twice as many libraries in the main firmware, and we took them out, and we took out all of the MQTT authentication stuff and anything which had to do with the device talking to an app at any point, because that was causing us problems, especially in Puerto Rico. That was the initial idea for this, but it also means you don't need to have an app anymore, unless you want to pass over Wi-Fi details, in which case you can use a generic app, which are available. So anyway, so there is that. Now, the other big change we made to the firmware, which is part of integrating it as an end-to-end system, is that we now have a file called secrets.h. And in that file, what we're asking the user to do is every time they provision a device, they have to set some of these values. They have to say who the user is. They have to give a network identifier and a station identifier. They also have to provide details of where their host is, which could be just a local host. Or a local server or cloud server. And so what that means is that we now use the secrets file, and we use these bits of information so that when the data goes through into the detection system has a standardized way of recognizing it. So when a number of sensors are detecting something, it will know. And you can also bypass the Wi-Fi provisioning system and just hard code your Wi-Fi if you want to. So there's that. There's a couple of other changes that we made to do with the timing, which also made it lower latency, I think, or better timestamps. And in config, I don't think there's anything else. So that was the firmware. And then the next thing that we did was we just put in a basic Mosquito MQTT broker, which I think we describe in the video, and we probably need to have a wiki for this. But the idea now is that whatever IP address you put in the sensor, you just need to do sudo apt install Mosquito, and you will have a Mosquito broker at that address, and there's no configuration necessary. And then the detection system, I think I can leave that to Vaslav to describe, but that's now just working straight away. And the alerting app, I think I'll leave that to Ryan to discuss. Don't know if you guys want to take over.
Yeah, I can. I can describe the detection a little bit, and also the LSE challenge, which we kicked off last week, which is also another thing that we wanted to discuss today. So regarding the detection, it works on a very similar principle as before. It's just saving those real-time streams for about 20 seconds. It runs some detections. When there are detections at multiple stations, it tries to associate them together based on theoretical travel times of those potential waves from an earthquake. And then it, when it associates, it tries to estimate parameters of an earthquake. We just had a detection this morning in Nepal. I can show you a small earthquake that happened in there. I don't know if you can you see my screens? Can you see the?
Yeah, we can see it.
So these are our stations in Nepal. It's 20 stations, and it was 4 stations detected this earthquake, which was determined as magnitude 3.8, and these are the waveforms. So it is like sort of on the very bottom of what the network can do. So 3.5 to 4 are like very small earthquakes for our kind of instruments. So these green stations are those that detected the earthquake, and then unfortunately this Gorka station up here wasn't active at the time because the earthquake probably happened a little bit more towards the north. But to determine that, we would need to have this station active, because when we have only these 4 stations that are in line for the algorithm, it looks pretty much, it's like a mirror. Like it can be at the same site, like just up here north or south here. There's no way the algorithm can actually determine where it was when we don't have a 2D grid, but when we have just like one line of stations, which was technically the case for this particular case or particular earthquake. So so the where is that? algorithms work quite well. We have had a few earthquakes in Puerto Rico. We have had a few earthquakes in Nepal. So far, it wasn't a very high number, but we didn't expect these regions to be so active with earthquakes of the size maximum of magnitude 4+. But yeah, we are able to determine earthquakes less than that, which is quite nice, actually. I didn't expect that. So yeah, so those are the detection algorithms. And regarding the LSE
can you
challenge,
just, sorry, would you mind us just showing quickly where people can find that on GitHub?
Yeah, I don't know if I pushed the newest version to GitHub yet from the detection. I did it in a way. I adjusted the detections algorithms that are working for Rio with the, like, we are now using the AWS infrastructure, but I adjusted that so it can either use that or, of course, like the MQTT endpoint, as Andy was talking about. So it is, the detection exists as a repo on GitHub, but I haven't pushed this latest change in there yet. So I will do it in the next few days, or maybe even today, because it's done. So that's just going to be, yeah, it's one of those repos on GitHub. Yeah, so that's that. And then the LSE challenge for those that are, I mean, all of you are familiar with that, but for those that might be watching the video later, it is, we organized OpenEEW /Griel /IBM /LSE organized this earthquake detection challenge for students at LSE, London School of Economics in London, obviously. And that's, we gave them, so it's like a, as far as I understand, it's like a semestral course that people can sign up for, and there's 4 or 5 groups of students that will that engage in this challenge and will compete for some kind of a prize. And the challenge, we defined the challenge, which is, we gave them records from the Mexican network from 2017 till pretty much the end of 2021. And we want them to train a neural network for detection of P waves, of earthquake primary waves. So we gave them.
So Václav, you did a really awesome summary slides. Do you have that available? Because I thought that was, like, really clearly explained the challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
What's cool about it is that I think that can be reused not just for LSE, but any data scientist. Like, if we can package that, I don't know if either Daniel or John or anyone else has ideas, but there might be a way to repackage that so that anyone joining OpenEEW can work with the data. Because you forgot to mention, you did a lot of other work, like you prepared the data sets for them and you cleaned it up so that people can just play with it straight away.
Yeah, it's actually, right now we can repurpose it very easily for anyone who wants to try this challenge. So because it's all ready for that. So awesome. This is a presentation that I gave at the beginning of the challenge to the students. I described briefly, I will not spend too much time on this. I described briefly what is the advantage of our system, which is low cost, and it's meant to be deployed in regions that cannot afford solutions that are much more expensive. This is the simplified infrastructure of the system and the sensor, and I briefly described the data. So what they were given as data was these 3 components records of earthquakes in Mexico. So this is one earthquake recorded at one instrument, and it's about 40 seconds of a record. And one record comprises 3 orthogonal components, which is the 3 directions in which the acceleration is measured by the sensor. So it's 2 horizontals and one vertical, which is like, this is the vertical and these are the 2 horizontals. And then, as you can see, there are 2 major sort of like waves arriving at the station. The first one is the earthquake primary wave, and the second one is the earthquake secondary wave. And for earthquake detection, and sort of determination of the strength of an earthquake, we use the primary wave because that's the one that is usually faster or always faster, and it's normally not that damaging. And this one gives us the opportunity to alert people before the secondary wave, which is usually higher magnitude and the damaging one, before it arrives somewhere. So we always need to learn as much as we can from the primary wave. This was the description of the challenge, and the data. We gave them about 1,200 of these P wave or of these earthquake records, and about 20 or 18,000 of noise records. And I described what's exactly the aim of the challenge, how the detections are supposed to look like, and what are the other scenarios. I also described how they can augment the data set by rotating those components, because for training a neural network, 1,200 samples is not a very high number. So I described how they can augment it, but this is sort of also on them. They can get very creative about the way how they handle with the data, and a little bit of that evaluation, how we gonna evaluate the final models. Yeah, and that's pretty much it.
And they were given some sensors as well to create their own noise, just if they wanted to. Yeah,
that's true. To
Awesome.
get some.
Did you get any video or
experience?
Did you get any video or pictures of the event, or how did it go? Was it a virtual?
It was just virtual. I did, when I was in London last year, I went and talked to the group, and I had like just a photo of me talking to people, which I can share. It's the first time I've stepped into like a university in about 5 years.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, cool. No, I'd like to look more about it. I realize I have to jump over. Actually, I'm hosting the Pura Town Hall for the other project right now. But this is great. Look forward to looking at the recording the rest of the session.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, I mean, I can also just talk briefly about the React Native app, which Johnny, you might be of interest to you. If you're looking to get into some React Native work. So I started today. Here, let me share for the sake of the recording, let me share the prototype here.
Yeah, about that, I am a little bit overwhelmed as far as work goes, so I'll try to see if I can fit it in.
Well, no, don't worry. I mean, this is this will be ongoing, so don't worry. I know are you still in school now along
yeah,
with work?
Not just that. I have three different things going on, job-ish things going on. I thought they all looked fun and cool, and then I suddenly had 3 projects going on aside from OpenEEW, and now I have 4. So
yeah,
I need to
that's being a developer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this just to put up here for the sake of the recording, can you see the prototype here?
Yeah.
So fairly simple application. We're trying to keep it simple just because we want it to just be the last component here that finishes the sort of end-to-end system and connects the detection scripts with some sort of alerting mechanism. I started doing or laying the groundwork for a little bit of the code, or at least thinking about how we might go about this and what technology we might use. So I'm not an expert on React Native by any stretch of the imaginations. Maybe you have some opinions about this, Johnny, or anyone else that out there that is listening to this that might know how to do this a little bit better. But when I was confronted with this morning trying to set up some of the initial stuff of what we should do with React Native, I sort of came to the conclusion that we should just use the simplest ways possible to put all this stuff together. And right now, I don't know exactly how much that's going to limit us, and by that I mean use Expo, which is a sort of higher level library.
I use Expo at work too. I think
Yeah.
it's pretty great. Especially the ability to easily test stuff with their app.
Yeah, and they also,
like,
I mean, I was just
yeah.
looking at their page, and it's like they have OTA updates and whatnot. Like you don't have to mess around with like the any of the sort of native programming that
Yeah.
they'd have to do with just
Not just
regular old
that,
React
right?
Native.
But on an iPhone or an iPad, right, you have to like have a license usually to like build apps,
Yeah,
which includes development, which is incredibly annoying. But on Expo, you can just download their app and they'll use their app as the host for your code. Which means that you can just grab an iPad, any iPad, you don't have to have a license, and just run your own code have that code, like that app be the shell for your code.
and are
And
you talking about for like development purposes or
Yeah.
like actually how? Yeah.
There's like there's just purely for development, right? Because you can't publish apps with this. But I mean, obviously, I think that probably violated a couple terms of services. But this is fine for development. I think it's great because you don't need to like do anything magic to your iPad. Neither do you have to pay $100 to just test your stuff, which is very great for like open source stuff.
Yeah, so that's kind of the goal, and also like the decision whether to use TypeScript or just regular JavaScript. It's again, yeah,
I would vote in favor.
A vote in favor of TypeScript.
Yeah.
All right. I don't mind that. I mean, I was just the reason I was doing regular old JavaScript is just the idea of just making it easier. But I guess if you're already in the world of mobile application development, I mean, TypeScript is not. Everyone seems to be pretty familiar with it if you deal with JavaScript and have a good amount of experience.
I feel like if you're, I'm not gonna make too crazy statements here, but if you're like involved in the scene of JavaScript, you'd probably have interacted with TypeScript before.
Yeah,
that's what
definitely.
I imagine
anyway. Yeah, I mean, let's think about it for we have I think one of the dashboard meetings coming up whenever it is, either this Friday or next Friday. And even if we started in JavaScript, like the amount of work that's going to get done between now and then is probably not an amount that would preclude just changing over to TypeScript anyway. But
I can tell you, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I've had situations before where like TypeScript would have saved their butts.
Yeah.
In a major way. We've had a situation where we had updated our API on the back end, and we'd updated our front end interaction with that API. But since it wasn't using TypeScript, we forgot one of the places to update it in, and one of our users hit one of the situations where that would be a problem, and their entire app crashed.
Yeah.
Which that would have been prevented with a simple interface in TypeScript. It would have flagged it to us. So we were like, damn, we should have used TypeScript. So that's what I've been an avid supporter of using TypeScript for ever since. Like that would have saved us a lot of debugging.
All right. I mean, and it's a reasonable consideration because it is an alerting app for this kind of stuff. So we might want to I mean, at least raise the bar of professionalism enough to like weed out those sort of simple errors that happen. So all right.
Let's go for the package called Prettier to be installed.
We'll use Prettier. So your vote is Expo, TypeScript, and Prettier. Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. That's. I don't see any reason not to do it that way. So yeah, that's basically the status of it now is just getting some beginner code. I'll probably just reset the stuff that I have now, possibly to use TypeScript. But other than that, that's the situation with it. So anyone out there? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, and not to bring up an old sort of debate, but have we worked out how push notifications would work, or are we just keeping it simple and going with Firebase?
I haven't done. Firebase is bad.
I haven't done any research into that myself. So for this particular implementation of it, and I want to also make sure that by using like Expo, for example, we're not limiting ourselves by with something. But yeah, let's just add that sort of the list of things to
Yeah.
we need to
But
consider before we
to
finalize all this
comment
stuff.
on that, I am not entirely sure if this is factual information, but I heard somewhere from a little birdie that Discord uses Firebase for their notification system, and I can tell you firsthand that Discord's for their mobile version anyway, that Discord's mobile notification delivery system is god awful. It will literally take certain specific events for it to trigger. That could mean that you could receive a notification to a message hours later.
Huh.
Or like if you, for example, what I see a pattern whenever I shut down my Windows, or like not my Windows, I don't even use Windows. My Discord client on my PC, my phone rings not rings, but my phone flags up with the notifications. There's some very weird stuff going on there. And if it is using type of Firebase, then we probably would want to stay away from that, because I don't know if it works that well. Then again, though, I have to put the disclaimer again that I'm not entirely sure if it does use Firebase, but it's certainly something to look into.
But from, I mean, I know nothing about push notification systems. It just seems to me that if we can build a prototype using the quickest and most straightforward system there is, and then just swap it out as we get fancier later.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
Rather than try and build everything complicated at the beginning.
Yeah.
So just looking at real briefly, just looking at the Expo documentation, it says there's a whole section on push notifications, an overview of it in Expo. And it says that all the hassle with native device information communicating with APNs, Apple Push Notification Service, or Firebase Cloud Managing is taken care of behind the scenes. So you can treat iOS and Android notifications the same, saving time on the front end and back end. So perhaps there is even a mechanism that we can use within that, not to make it too complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. I'm definitely supporting in the idea of using Expo. I think that's a great solution, especially for development. My experience with it has been great. I think it's like the only solution that supports hot reloading, which is great. I mean, obviously, which developer is going to deny wanting to use hot reloading? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's great.
Can I suggest, guys, that just based on what Daniel said at the beginning, is that because we talked, Johnny, about the fact that OpenEEW, it's the beginning of the year and we need to get more people excited about all the stuff that's happening, and get more developers working with us. And one idea, one thought is can we are we ready now, Ryan, Johnny, to sort of describe what we need in terms of issues on GitHub so that we can start to sort of create a call for action? Come join. I mean, is it something we can describe, or is there investigation necessary still?
I'm gonna be honest. I kind of fell mentally. I kind of fell away for a minute from the project, so I'm kind of like unaware of what's going on. So I'm not able to comment, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I would say that I think by the next dashboard meeting, I keep calling it the dashboard meeting, but it's not dashboard meeting anymore. Next user interface meeting, I think that's what we renamed our group. We should be able to start with issues. There's still a few more things I'd like to investigate just to make sure we don't start off things with the wrong set of technology. But by then, I think that's next Friday, we should be able to start creating issues in GitHub.
You mean a week? It's a week on Friday, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think we were supposed to have one
Friday the 4th.
Last Friday. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because because then we can sort of ask if perhaps IBM could publish something on can tweet about it, or we can do it ourselves, or whatever it is. But it'd be great to actually have something concrete so a developer can just get stuck in without having to talk to the four of us.
Yeah, and I'd also, for the LSE thing, maybe we get a little bit more into that program and whatnot, but that also, I think there's some good marketing material there that we can kind of put out to try and suggest that data scientists, you don't have to be part of this LSE program to contribute to this project, right? Data scientists from all over the place can try their hand at improving this. Because I think that, as I've said previously in these meetings, like my feeling is that the data science portion of this project keep us, will kind of future proof us, right? Where like that's the there's a lot of people out there doing research into early warning systems and make them more and more better at what they do, and I think that like I don't know. I think that data science, from the way the other competitions are run in other places, is like a good way to get people to make these little contributions here and there and be able to kind of further things. But I don't know.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, and also that stuff has done all the hard work. Like that presentation, I think is awesome. The fact that the data is now packaged for people to use.
Yeah.
We just have to figure out a way to present it to OpenEEW.
Yeah. That's kind of the point I was trying to make, even though I didn't say it. Is the fact that like it's all like with the stuff that Vaslav has done, we're basically like set up to be able to really bring in some data science people.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that like transforming that presentation or the Notion page into a Medium post may work just fine, or maybe just writing a short Medium post where we link the description on Notion or something like that. So yeah. That could probably work, and I think that people, right now I think it's in the state that people can just pick it up and start working on it without like too much of messing around with Seismoji or so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's it for me. Do you guys have anything else?
No.
Nope.
Yeah.
Johnny, you've gone very dark. I think you've got a great streaming setup, but I feel like you're missing a light.
Yeah, it looks like with the lighting, it looks like we're in a Virgin Atlantic plane here. Like,
oh, there you go.
There
you go.
Yeah, I've
that's the programmer's look right there. Got the hoodie on.
Yeah, I've got my Nano Leafs right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Nice.
my lights I can remote control from my phone, and that I reversed engineer. It's a reversed engineer, so I can control them from my Mac as well.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It appears that Discord is dying, so that's always fun. Not like user base wise, but like service wise, as in like it's 502ing on me.
Huh.
Oh, some messages came in the server that I'm in. Did Discord just die again? Yes, it did.
All right, I'm gonna get some lunch.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm gonna get some water because I literally
good to see you guys
all day.
Thanks for joining us, Johnny.
Yeah,
Look after yourself.
Yeah.
Take care.
See you too.
All right.
See you, everybody.
Have a good day.